And we are recording. It is May the 4th be with you. I always feel like I'm lisping when I say that sometimes, but it's always fun to say. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but I just like saying that. May the 4th be with you. May 4th. So, well, kind of the big thing. I mean, there's Pluto just went retrograde last week, so it's just now starting to gain a little momentum. It goes stationary, direct. I mean, it goes still, and then it either, one way or another. So it's starting to pick up in its retrograde. So we're going to look at that. And what else did I want to say? But it's also making a trine to Venus. Let me just look at. I think in a couple of days. When's Thursday? So we have Venus. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago too. Yeah. Venus will be at 26 degrees and Pluto is at 26 degrees. Venus is in Taurus, and we know Pluto is in Capricorn, so it's earth sign. So it will be making a nice trine, which is good because I think as Pluto now starts its backward trek, it's going to be kind of nice to have Venus a little bit usher that in, and we'll talk about that. But its retrograde is about 5 months. It's going to be like sometime in October. So we have May, June, July, August, September, and then like October, beginning of it, 6th, it goes direct. And it's going to be from 26 to 24 degrees. So we're going to look at that in charts. We're going to first look at the houses of Pluto and talk a little bit about what it means when it turns retrograde. And instead of letting you just look at me, I'm going to share my screen and I'll just give you something else to look at. And let me know if you can see that circle.
I can see it.
Can you see it? You got it? All right. Just to give you something a little bit about the houses, I just wanted to put that up because we're going to talk about Pluto going through the houses. But before we get there, I just want to go a little bit about what Pluto retrograde is, a little bit that we should be thinking about. And the biggest way I can just give it to you is, we got to look at our shadow side. We're confronting what's behind the scenes. So with that, I'm going to just look at a little bit. We already said it's going to be, from like 26, it's almost 20, what is today? It's 20. Yeah, it was like last week when it went, it was like late 48 minutes, 26:48. So it was almost all the way to 27 degrees when it turned around. So with it retrograde, we're given the opportunity to explore our darkness and confront the shadow self. Our shadow is all the parts of ourselves we disown. Our demons live in the shadows, but it's not just the negative aspects. It's the psyche. It's not, let me say that again. It's according to psychoanalyst Carl Jung, it's not just the negative aspects of our psyche that are buried there. Many positive qualities remain hidden because we've been taught over time that they are unacceptable or wrong. I think that's really important, because this is maybe allowing social constructs to rule us, to make us be a certain way when we really shouldn't. We shouldn't follow the social norm, the construct that's beating everybody into the same mold. All right. The shadow is a sum of all personal and collective psyche elements, which, because of their incompatibility with the chosen conscious attitude, are denied expression in life. Many of these shadow elements are worth claiming. Pluto retrograde is a good time for looking into our darkest corners and bringing those repressed aspects of self into the light. And again, it's not always what we think is bad or wrong. It's not being afraid to bring out issues about things, about ourselves, about our feelings, about society, about how things are, and making amends with it. It's like, look, this is wrong. This is fucked up. And we need to make a change here. And this is how we're going to do it. Going to get a little forceful, but that's Pluto. That's that transformative energy. And it's not nice. It's, but that's what's cool about it trining Venus is it's starting in, because it's picking up a little bit of a niceness. It's like Venus is dressing Pluto a little bit. It's like that's fixing the collar and the hair, you know, and making sure there's something to eat and stuff before Pluto kind of gets trekked into bringing that up and owning it and being okay, not just being an asshole. All right. So when we look directly at our shadows, all the unclaimed parts of us, both those that we are genuinely, that some that are both genuinely unhealthy and those that we have learned to be ashamed of, become clear to us. We can then choose consciously what we wish to manifest. This is the sun type of energy, choosing that consciously. Bringing the shadows into the consciousness, bringing the shadow into the conscious light of awareness. But the process of exploration, the journey we take into the psyche during the Pluto retrograde is not always pleasant. So looking at that stuff and giving it an honest reflection is what sometimes is painful. This is because the shadow is tightly bound up with shame, not guilt in the sense of knowing we have done something wrong and feeling the prick of our consciousness, but that heavy, dark feeling that something about us is not acceptable. The need to hide some aspect of our being, perhaps even from ourselves. And that's what I'm saying. It may not always be wrong. It might be, you might be told something was wrong. Social norms might be saying, no, this is wrong. You should do this. You know, be a sheep, go over here and do this. So exploring that, taking the time to look in, and we'll look at the different areas in the chart. And if there's anything that could be aspecting that, that'll give you clues as to how to use this for your energy. So Pluto retrograde allows us to access this darkness within, particularly our unconscious need to control ourselves, others, and the outside world. So I would say consciously control, you know, because if we can let our unconscious, not control, but be relaxed in knowing that you're in total rhythm, that you're in total right order, and that we just kind of have to constantly maybe reassess that and go over stuff and go, all right, this is not good, you throw this away, or oh, I got to grab this, this is needed, you know, and let's kind of reshuffle the deck and, you know, get a new group plan all the time with stuff. So how will Pluto retrograde affect you? So the shadow is not exclusively the realm of Pluto. It's also strongly associated with Saturn, because mainly the authority figure, you know, Saturn's the authority figure working against authority of all the things in our life. So it's the authority figures in our life that teach us that certain parts of ourselves are not acceptable. Those beliefs are then internalized and manifest as the voice within that brings self-doubt and self-censoring. You know, sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes things need Saturnian constructs to, it's like, look, that's not cool. Like, you don't do this over there. And other times it's like, well, why? You know, if it's a good reason, I'll abide by it. But if it's not, I won't. So these beliefs are then internalized. Okay, like we said, Neptune also plays a role in allowing us to deny our inner shadow and to hide its truth from ourselves. You know, because Neptune is that veil. It's that veil that we put over things, or that we have that conveniently we can't see, or that is mystified. Okay, so if we don't come to terms with our shadow, we can begin to project it onto others. And I know we've all seen people that project their shadow onto others, and they just totally bleh, out there. It's like, you're the one, you, right? And then when you point one finger out, you got three fingers pointing back at you, right? You know, so people that do that point blame in looking out, they don't realize that they're shadow projecting. So judging others for the qualities that we cannot acknowledge in ourselves. And it's always good that, you know, we kind of do that and we look at those things, but not obsessive either way. All right, so developing an understanding of the polarities in astrology can greatly help in understanding our shadow self, because in many cases where we identify strongly with one archetype in the polarity, say Virgo, the other archetype, in this case Pisces, might be scorned or neglected, or the other way around. This forces us into the shadow. Our objective with all the polarities in the zodiac, and particularly those in opposition in our natal chart, is to work toward balance, of course. The shadow needs to be made conscious and integrated into the self so that we are no longer projecting it onto others. a habit that makes healthy relationships extremely difficult to maintain. Yeah. Metaphorically, such integration involves a journey into our own inner darkness where we must confront our demons. This journey can be frightening and painful, but ultimately leads us onward and upward into the brighter place. During Pluto retrograde, during this time of introspection, we have an opportunity to begin this important journey. So, how will Pluto retrograde affect you? If your chart is strong in Scorpio archetype, you'll really feel the Pluto retrograde, as will anyone who has Pluto personalized in their chart as the ruling planet or an aspect to the sun, moon, or chart ruler. To better understand how this transit will affect you, take a look at which house Pluto is passing through in your chart. And then also we'll look and see if there's any angles making aspects to any planets and what that might be. If Pluto retrograde transits one of your natal planets, the issue it brings up may feel very raw and personal. If this is the case, remember that the best way to work with Pluto is to surrender to it. Yeah, it's a long, hard, slow grind with Pluto stuff. Often he will be taking something from you that will feel strong, that you feel very strongly about, even something as important as a job, a home, a relationship. But if you can let it go, you will be given something far more valuable in return, a different type of peace of mind, because it will evolve to the next higher form of that. If you have Pluto retrograde natally, the shadow self is something you may already feel quite familiar with. Perhaps you have a dark side, a secret self that only a few trusted people ever see. For this time, it may be a time of questioning whether these darker aspects of self really need to be hidden. And if so, whether they contribute to your well-being. That's an interesting way to look at things. Yeah. I was born, I have a Pluto retrograde, and I'm really into astrology, and not many people know that about me. I mean, I'm here open, and I'm on YouTube, and I'm getting more, but not my personal circle friends, or clients, patients, people that I work on, in the healthcare. Nobody has a clue. So if they did, they might be like, oh my God, But that's how it is. That's one thing that's hidden. And, now a lot of things are coming out and a lot of things are accepted more. So, I could be coming out of the closet about some of that a little more, So those are just some of the things we'll have to see, like in the chart where some of those are. If you have Pluto retrograde, okay, so definitely you will. And then, a lot of people, if it's retrograde 5.5 months out of the year, that's almost half the birth. So a lot of, it's going to be half the people kind of. So you will experience Pluto retrograde differently depending on how Pluto is aspected in your chart. So, for example, if you have Pluto in aspect to your Venus, you could now find yourself exploring the shadow through your partnerships. While for someone with Pluto in the 12th house, this journey may be a very solitary experience. One little last part, working with your Pluto retrograde. Confronting our darkness is not pleasant, and Pluto retrograde will be difficult for many. However, the reward is worth all the hard work and heartache. By unearthing and integrating the lost and hidden aspects of ourselves, our capacity to live our lives happily, creative, and powerfully, as powerful beings is greatly enhanced. Okay, so it's a powerful time. It's a powerful planet. It's a powerful place and thing to understand. I like to have people get a thorough knowledge of where Pluto is in their chart, because it's there forever almost. It's like it's there a long time. Not forever. It just seems like it. If it moves 3 degrees a year, 2 to 3 degrees a year, it's going to be a while in a house. So really quick, we're looking at first house, appearance, outward personality, what you project to the world, your identity. The second house for your money, possessions, values, skills. The third house, mental activity, learning, education, teaching, could be siblings or communications. Fourth house, home, parents, roots, your inner security. Fifth house is your creative self, your creative side. It could be your children, Could be fun. It could be romance. It could be affairs. It could be things that you create. In the 6th house, it's work, service, health, self-improvement, all about health. In the 7th house, it's partner and other marriage or other partnerships or other parts of yourself. In the 8th house, it's sex, it's death, letting go, it's regeneration, it's other people's money, sharing of things, other people's things. In the 9th house, it's higher education, it's philosophy, ways you're thinking, ways of life, publishing, religion, travel, law, higher law. In the 10th house, career, how people see you, status, your reputation, your vocation, your purpose, taking power. And your 11th house, it's your groups, friends, goals, aspirations, the society at large, the larger picture, the integrated self. And the 12th house, we have solitude, institutions, behind the scenes, transcending, self-sabotage or self-sacrificing. All right, stop sharing that one and start sharing this one. So if we have Pluto transiting the 1st house, I'm not going to read all these word for word, but we'll just kind of pick up on some of these. It crosses your ascendant. It makes you feel fearless. It liberates you from patterns, thought patterns. It becomes, I don't want to get into your first slide. So you can gain a lot by getting control over, let me read this one. This will help you to have more control over your unconscious motives than in the past. So you're not going to be, okay, so in the past, what came through was compulsions and unconscious or irrational obsessions. So when Pluto's transiting your 1st, you feel like a force within you wants to control everything and everyone, which makes relationships very difficult because that Pluto is transforming you so hardly, so intensely, I should say. What you must learn to control is yourself. Make an effort to see yourself positively as you have a unique opportunity to discover new and very powerful resources and values. The difficulty here is that you have too much power. You may have too much power because it's like all about you and I have power, and you can force things, and to force things or force people. You could push them away by having that regenerative power. So there's a huge change in your image and in the way you express yourself. So this again, if it's, it can take a while. So this could be years, somebody's gaining that. All right, Pluto transiting the 2nd house. Here's where, in the 2nd house, you need to manage efficiently all the purposes of your possessions. Like, why do you have these? Your ideas, your principles, your inherited values. Why do you think these are valuable? And then maybe you're going to reassess your hold of value on these. The money you earn, everything that you produce. So you'll be reassessing that. It is a challenge to review the ways in which your possessions or energies to achieve a spiritual idea. If transiting Pluto makes oppositions or squares to personal planets, there can be economic and material losses. Do not be swayed into any dishonest business. Soon you will find a priceless inner wealth. But also it might be helping or you get rid of old held beliefs about possessions. Do I really need to hold on to this? Is this really valuable? So that's really big. It's like if you were born into traditions and you've had Pluto going through your 2nd house, this might be the bodhisattva where you're selling everything and then going and living in a commune or something. I mean, you're reassessing everything that's maybe valuable to you that you've held dear. It's like, is this really valuable? In the 3rd house, it's the communications. So we're going to be evaluating and looking at ways you've communicated, anything that's superficial or outdated or patterns of thinking. What you say may offend people with, you may become across as really transformative in your speech or in your ideas. You say now what you may have to do is develop your intelligence and the ability to deal with the environment in a meaningful way. Do not sign any documents, blah, blah. Okay, so is it's transiting these places. It's in here for a while. So when we get the retrograde back up a little bit, it kind of goes over stuff we've been mulling around. Pluto's motion for me, as I understand it, as I've been studying it, it's like plowing ahead with a bunch of stuff, transformation, and then you get this. It's like putting the gas pedal down of transforming, and then when it goes retrograde, you get to assimilate it a bit. So it's assimilating that forward motion. You get to backpedal a little bit. It would be like, I don't know, being in a big snow cave. You fall in the snow, and you're moving forward, and you're digging, you know, and you kind of stop, and then you got like back up a little bit, you know, or in dirt or whatever, you digging like a tunnel, and you back up, and then you widen the edges out. When you're backing up and widen out and moving some of that dirt is when you're going over the retrograde phase. So it's that transformative energy. You know, it's like you might be looking at these different parts of yourself. Try to think about it as I finish reading these, as like are going through these different parts of yourself. When it's direct, you're barreling through it. Okay. And then when it's retrograde, you're kind of taking the foot off the accelerator. You're still moving forward, but you're taking the foot off the accelerator and slow down a little bit so you can assess things a little bit slower. There we go. A little slower. All right, as we go into the fourth house, that's like our home. That's our, you know, where we feel comfortable. So one of the key words for this time is self-sufficiency, since it's about ensuring new foundations for life while going with the flow and being open to changes that occur. Personal areas in your life, such as the inner psyche, home, family, will be affected. Things from your childhood could come up. And that could be people, places, anything that's, you know, from that time of your life, that it may help you process stuff that you're going through in your adult life. So a change is required. You can change the irrational impulses and inappropriate childish behavior that may come into light. So maybe you recognize that, and instead of beating yourself up about anything, you just allow yourself to create new habits. So sometimes there's a part of identifying the habit or the experience is something that you don't really care for, and then you have to figure out a new way to move on through that. It's like, yep, I really got to deal with that part of myself, and I'm going to go for it this way. Moving forward, not backward, beat yourself up. So Pluto works below the surface to reach the fundamental roots and bring tremendous change into the nature of family, relationships, changes of residence, changes within the house, divorce, death, or other types of separation. So whatever, you know, this stuff, it's, you know, it's like you hear this like divorce or death, like, is it eminent in your life in that area? It's like, are you having tumultuous relationships that might end in that area? Are you taking care of family members that may pass on? You know, it's like there's tendencies that we can start to see in different parts of our life. So power struggles with parents, you may have been too dependent on them and now you want to separate, or them on you, but they still insist on treating you like a child, or you keeping yourself there, being treated like a child. There's a couple different ways, you know, we're talking about fourth house. Although this is not the strongest transit, it can be a very significant time. So Pluto going through the fourth house, transforming things associated with home and family, bringing transformations to home and family. All right. Pluto going in the fifth house, so it gets a little bit more interesting. Your relationship with children, whether yours or others, is entering a phase in which everything you do with them will have a profound effect on them later. When Pluto transits your fifth house, it's a time of a power struggle with your children. It could be. With tense episodes because you try to put too much pressure on them to change, or they pressure you to change. You know, it's very important to take care of their health. Also, it's your creations. If you don't have children, or it's not an issue with children, it's things that you create. Could be love. You know, you could be fascinated by someone who does not suit you as a partner, because that's trying to find something outside of yourself. If you're being pushed subconsciously to do something you do not want to do, even if you are already involved in a relationship, you'll be very intense during this time and will undergo a total transformation. If you're involved with someone, it could be a real transformative, hot, steamy, or chaotic relationship, and not a depthy type. It would be more tumultuous than deep, because of the Pluto transformation into the house of Leo, creativity. So it is said that a relationship that goes through great problems during this transit may manage to survive or last forever. Well, that could be because it's such a tumultuous time, because you're looking at your inner self, your creations, and if you're not happy with that, you're going to try to project it on somebody else. That's that shadow projection. So try to control your emotions and not give free rein to the desire to express yourself at the expense of others, whether in love, social life, or career. So if Pluto forms difficult aspects to other planets, there may be occasional losses by speculation. So gambling, risk, if there's other aspects there may not be really good, because that's the house of, gambling, risk, creations. You're creating something. All right, as it moves above, almost as it moves into the 6th house, it's going to be, that's the natural house of Virgo. So you will be more Pluto asks you to work selflessly to serve a noble cause and to develop the ability to endure pain, disappointment, hypersensitivity, and personal failures. Oh, great. So Pluto through the Virgo house is going to be like fanatical, manic, getting it done, transforming work. Be careful not to lose yourself in an unnecessary fanatical self-sacrifice, right? Instead, flow toward a goal of total dedication to cause that will help you reorient your feelings and interests away from ego gratification and toward participation in a fuller life that includes interpersonal relationships. There must be a willingness to serve, there's that Virgo, always with the conscious objective of curing yourself from egocentricity. You must be willing to face personal crises that will transform you into a more integrated personality. It's a good time for regenerative therapies, getting into a good health regimen, regenerating your body, taking care of your diet, all that. So Pluto, house of work, service, what you do for work, how you serve people, servants, pets, small animals, that's all this that would be part of that transformation. And work is different than occupation. When we get to 10th house, that's your career, how people see you in the world. It's different than work, because you can have a career and still be working. So your work conditions are going to be going through transformations in this area. All right, now moving above the horizon, moving into our 7th house. More than any other Plutonian cycle, traveling your 7th house means a profound change through or with your relationships. Hidden tensions have to be released now, and this transformation will take place in your relationships, whether they're intimate or business. This experience has to do with equanimity in love, in any relationship between two people. So transformative in relationships, and then also in relationship, any type of relationship to yourself, looking at, of course, those are the ultimate in yourself. You're serving, you've got your, what's the word? Your mind, your narrative mind. That's not the right word. I'm looking at the constant mind, the babbling, our inner thoughts are. And now we're with others. What are their thoughts? What are their feelings? We have to take that in consideration. So any encounters now, let's go beyond that. Okay, so this is simply because others will be a reflection of you, a mirror of your inner psychic impulses. So this kind of, I think, would enhance going in this area a little bit more of that shadow projection, because you've gone from it's the opposite of the emphasis on you is on others, but you still have to manage you within this. So you should not blame the other, because in reality, they are your own subtle and unconscious messages that you are sending yourself, so that you can finally recognize and receive love and understanding. If transiting Pluto makes difficult aspects, conflicts may arise over joint finances, money from a company, alimony, or sex problems. So again, transforming your relationships, transforming the way you relate to others, what you, again, business, could be an, relationship, not just with your spouse or something. It could be anybody, any relationship. All right, of the eighth house, which is the natural house of Scorpio, it may mean a new life born out of the old. It could be a death and regeneration of the ego, while the outdated aspects of your life disappear to give rise to new ones, which can only arise in this way. In this case, Pluto does not signify death, but it could be, someone or somebody that affects you, or a death can radically change the circumstances or force you to confront the nature and meaning of your own life. Could be a lot of death on different levels that could change somebody. It may not be anybody they know. It could be outer death. It could be other death. It could be death of many things. The way that they like that of their life, what they've known, the death of things. Try not to get into debt because you could find yourself under the control of another person. Latent powers of clairvoyance and skills for the occult may be stimulated during this time, as well as sex. Pluto makes difficult aspects to other planets that may endanger life or someone close to you. It's hard to say. I don't know if I agree with that. Okay, this could be your life could be disrupted by natural disasters or large-scale forces, political, economic, or military beyond your control. That's interesting. And right now, this next year, with these intense aspects we've been going through, that could very well be. So it'd be interesting to see how many people actually have some of this going. So other people's stuff, other people controlling you, transforming, coming from outside of yourself, going through the eighth house. Ninth house, surrounding the top, getting up near the top. Drastic changes in religious, cultural, or philosophical beliefs can occur as a consequence of direct and intuitive experiences that affect your religious point of view. Yeah, I guess I would say religious, dogmatic, as opposed to inner spiritual. So this would be a little bit more of the structured side. These provoke a personal confrontation with your internal and spiritual reality. There we go. While Pluto transits through your ninth house, you may also get a financial aid or government scholarship for higher education. So this would be something coming from outside, some kind of higher force opening that up. Travel related to business or foreign, with ninth house, a lot to do with foreign things. So transformation could come through foreigners, foreign places, higher education. Transformation could come through philosophy change. Religion of some sort. If Pluto forms difficult aspects here, it could point to, with like we just said, education, culture, philosophy, and religion can border on the fanatical with someone. We said in foreign places, foreign wars, Pluto always produces obsessions. And during this time, your beliefs will help you convince others of what you have learned. But remember, they must also have the opportunity to preserve their own points of view. All right, so transformation in the philosophical, a lot of times people's philosophy of life changes here. It's like, it's not the way I knew it. Nope. All right, coming up at the midheaven, Pluto transiting your 10th house awakens your ambitions towards success and self-realization, and also the desire to control and dominate. Because this is the 10th house, the challenges come from authority figures, and in this case, from Pluto. The challenges are even more forceful. They go straight to the point. On the other hand, Pluto gives you the opportunity to reach your goal, your life's goal, or at least to perceive what they really are. If you do not know what your life goals are, you will most likely change your path and work frequently, seeming lost until you discover it, because it's transforming what you do in the world or how people perceive you, transforming your success or your realizing of success or your actions. So your ambition to succeed can involve you in some political or power struggles, political schemes or power struggles. If Pluto makes difficult transits to other places or to other planets, it can lead you on a power trip. So there's definitely this happening. I think I was looking at some political people, Pluto going into their 10th house. Okay, going on to the 11th house. When Pluto transits the 11th, there'll be transformation and friendship with powerful and influential people. There's a tendency to break with old friendships and affiliations or groups that no longer make sense and establish new ones that are going to have a very profound and transforming influence on your life, be it for good or evil or bad. In some cases, certain people may receive scholarships or grants to fund scientific, artistic, and spiritual work. Your ideas will now change, and with this, and it will be reflected in the people around you and in the groups or movements which you identify with. During this transit, there's a danger of being dominated by unconscious impulses that push you in a direction where deep down you do not want to go. On the other hand, you will meet people can be like guides and teachers and send you on the right path so you can grow. So transformation with coming through larger groups, through larger, I don't want to say larger people, big, tall people, people that you deem to be outside of yourself, as somebody that you look up to, could be, opening up parts of your life for you, or you to them. So it's bigger than yourself. It's transformation of larger circles. Maybe you all of a sudden get political. Maybe you were political and all of a sudden you're not. So this kind of changes the inner landscape of people's groups that they're in. And maybe that's a big part of their life. Maybe they're a big group person, or maybe they're groupie here, or groups or moving groups. This might be somebody that even could be like in a political party. They've been in a political party for their whole life. Maybe their mom and dad were part of this party and they're all part of, and then all of a sudden it changes. So something like that. All right. And the last place of Pluto going through the 12th house. So this is the transformation or death rebirth of the subconscious. So you would expect that this would be more of an alone or a inner place rather than an outer place. If Pluto goes through this Neptunian experience in accordance with all other aspects, it's an excellent time for intuitive research of past lives, meditation, I would say astrology, deeper aspects of esoteric studies, the Kabbalah, Hebrew, letters, glyphs. There's so much to discover your clairvoyant abilities. The most important aspect of this Pluto transit is through 12th house is the psychological part. It brings up the deeply buried parts of your psyche and forces you to confront them. It is impossible at this time to hide any hidden characteristics. This will just be right there to come out. They come to the surface in destructive ways. There are also certain patterns of purely childish behavior that could be made clearly, because they will have to be corrected in order for me to become a mature adult. Try to deal with these hidden and unpleasant parts of your life or your past, and look at the things within you without being too opinionated. You'll be, no, let me read it right. You will be pleasantly surprised to find that when you are honest, your adversaries can change their opinion about you. All right. Pluto through the houses. So again, I'm just going to keep this picture up. I guess, can you see this? If you can't, let me know. If you can, just, it's okay. Kind of focus more on this rather than the whole four.
I'm not seeing anything, Carrie.
No, all right, that's what I thought. I gotta do. I keep thinking that I can share without stopping and going again. All right, you should see it now.
Got it.
All right.
Same wheel you had earlier.
Yep. Just putting it so you can see it. So now just kind of think about that, where that is in your chart, and then you can maybe go back over that, look at that a little bit deeper, and then look at, like, again, it's 26 degrees, it's going to go to 24, and it's going to rake over those degrees. So look in your chart and you see if you have anything at those degrees. And then you find out what that angle is. You're going to have a square, you're going to have a trine, you're going to have some conjuncting. What is going on with those degrees, or what few things, and gives you a little bit more idea of like how long you might have to deal with something at those degrees. And then in October, it starts moving forward. And then I think it'll be, when will it move finally out of all of 2022? does retrograde, let's see, I think it might even be 2023 before we finally get out of there. 2023. Pluto, March 23rd or 4th, if I could see my thing right. March 24th, it moves into 0 degrees. Aquarius. So look at that also, and just write that down right on there. March 24th. It's almost like 23. Let me just, is it 20? It's like right. It's probably late in the day. I'm gonna just write it 3/23/23 because it's probably in Greenwich. It may be like real close to that. It's close enough for writing that down. 3/23/23. Just to remember in your head when Pluto finally changes into the next degree. So I would look ahead also. At these things coming up, if you've got anything in the later degrees of any sign, and see what aspects you're going to get from Pluto, and then see when Pluto actually changes signs, because that will be, that's the last one that is going to be, of that group that's been in Capricorn for so long to finally now move into Aquarius. So look then to see what's at 0 degrees in your chart and see what degrees that's going to be making there and what that might mean. So you can look ahead to see what you've got coming in and how long that will last and what is going to unfold and the best way you can work through it. That's why we're here in these lives, is to work through this stuff. And we all get these different squares and oppositions and stuff that gets tough. It's really good to use the insight of astrology to see how long it's going to be and what you need to do to get yourself into the best position through a difficult aspect. And I'm just harping on that with Pluto because it takes so long. If you've got something here at 25 degrees, it's been dinging on that for a while. Right now it's going to go over it again, or 24, it's going to get close to that. Once it passes it. Say again, your question?
Yeah. So like in my natal chart, my Pluto is at 24 degrees Libra in the 9th house. So I would be looking at the 9th house.
Yes. Yep. You look at Pluto retro. Well, okay. It's in Libra, right? You have Pluto in Libra in the 9th house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you would go over and look now where Pluto where Capricorn, where's 24 Capricorn in your house?
Let's see. I have Capricorn rising. So.
And what degree is it? What degree rising?
28.
28. So then 24 degrees would still be in your 12th house then, right?
Yeah.
All right, so it's in your 12th house, just about ready to cross your ascendant. It's getting real close, right?
Right.
So is like right now it's at 26 degrees. It's almost on your ascendant. So it's probably been heating you up, probably been stirring up a lot of stuff about your identity, and it's been squaring. It's getting it's going to conjunct your ascendant, right?
Right.
And it's going to square where Pluto was natally. So you've got, you've got a natal square because we said it was 24 Libra.
Yep.
Yep. And then it's been 24 Capricorn this year. So you've kind of had a tough year. You've had this Pluto square.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then you've had it from the 9th house over to the 12th house. So you've got higher spiritual aspirations, and then you've got endings you're dealing with. So those are it's gonna click a little bit more. And then as Pluto gets closer to your ascendant, that whole first house stuff, it's gonna start identifying more with you. It's like it's getting closer to lighting up your stuff, who you are, how you're gonna play it. And it's gonna, and if you've got that natal Scorpio 0 degrees sun in Scorpio, so that Pluto, it's going to kind of resonate with that. And I think your spiritual grounding and your spiritual studies you can make the most of that more so than most. It's going to heighten your intuition, and that's being in your first house. It will hopefully allow you to trust that, to be like, yeah, I can do that. I'm intuitive. I get that. I'm good. Mm-hmm. and own it, not be like afraid of it. You know, a lot of think people might be afraid of it rather than going, yeah,
Mhm.
not bad. On that level.
Mm.
But yeah, a tough year because you've had that square happening. And then
Okay.
you've got to step into yourself, you know, like this next year, it's going to be about you stepping into yourself in a lot of ways. I think we looked at different part in your chart, but just looking at Pluto now, it's going to cross your ascendant. That's major. That's a big deal. Mine, you know, I had a few years ago, I had a Pluto squaring my midheaven, and it sucked. It was rough, you know. So things just get a little rocky when they hit those points, which just don't want to mention. Excuse me, about those
Carrie?
midterms. Those the
Carrie?
power of 4. Yes.
This is Sherry. I wanted to get your comment on this. Pluto is in my second house at, and it has come right across my sun, and it is going to go back across my sun at 24 degrees Capricorn.
Oh, so it's
My
dinging
second
on your sun, your identity, yourself, who you are, and what you're going to do, your possessions, what you're building. I know you're wanting to build a house, and
I'm trying to, and I'm sitting here thinking, what is this doing to me? This retrograde. And by the way, it was retrograde when I was born.
okay.
It was retrograde in the 8th house of other
Okay.
people's possessions, as opposed to now being in my possessions.
Ah, interesting. And you know, well, I think you kind of were born into some family stuff, and then you had to deal with like, you know,
Oh, big time, big time. I've gone through the rebirth, everything, all that stuff in the 8th house.
and then you had family stuff, and then you had to, you know, you got like some family like inheritance or caring for your sister as well, and her
Oh,
estate.
taking care of the family farm and taking care of my sister and her property all those years. Yeah.
That was your 8th house stuff that you removed from, and now it's kind of all in your lap in your second house of your stuff. So it's
Right.
it's transforming you in what your possessions really are and what it means to you, and how you want to crystallize it and get on it. You know, if it's
Mhm.
crossing over your sun, it's kind of like an identity of identifying your possessions and how you want your possessions to be, how you want the rest of your life. You want to build, you know, you're retired, you want to build your home, you want to turn things over and take charge of it and transform it. It's like it all in that mix. It hasn't rolled out yet. It's all stirred up. You had to get rid of one thing, move, reassess, but it's still stirred up. It hasn't totally crystallized yet. Our world kind of got a little crusty, you know, and maybe slowed the flow a little bit of being able to do that. I don't know if you confronted just yourself or if you ran into some walls with the outer side or a bit of both.
I've had a lot of struggles, internal struggles that I've had to deal with as to, you know, what do I really want, and delineating how I want to go about it, and whether I'm willing to fight the fight and at this age. and yeah, it's been interesting. I don't feel like I'm doing anything that I haven't been doing all my life, though, which is constantly fighting battles of one sort and another, both externally and internally. Right now, it's all been internal.
But now it's like all about, now it's crystallized to just you and your stuff. You don't have
Yes,
to do
it's
it.
simplified. It's much more simplified than it used to be. I've walked away from the people in my family who are just will refuse to see me for who I am and accept me for who I am.
And
So
then and now you're in control of your money, values, and possessions. It's not stuff that you are made to or forced to.
no,
And yeah, having this crossover your sun is really making you squeeze out that identity. What do I want? You know, what's my identity? What do I identify with this? What's this identifying transformation? And it's like squeezing this rag of that kind of. So yeah, it's gonna ding, and then it's gonna go over it, and then it'll clear out. Then it'll pass that, and then it'll move on. And then you know, I'd have to look again and see if it's gonna make any other aspects with anything else.
well, I was going to ask you if it's conjunct with my sun, and basically it's actually past opposition with my natal Pluto. My natal Pluto was at 20.
Okay, good. So that more transformation, like Jackie's just having her Pluto square and you're having a Pluto opposition, or you just passed that.
Yeah, or just past it whenever it was at 20. Basically, at what point do you think, at what degree should I consider I'm out of this thing?
You're
And-
past the Pluto, the natal Pluto opposition. Once it's passed,
Correct.
it's like
It
just the orgasm is over. It's like,
okay. All right, but the conjunct sun, which is at 24 degrees, we know it's going to retrograde back to 24 degrees. How many degrees past, when it comes forward again, how many degrees past 24 do I have to go to say I'm done with it?
well, if it's retrograding over, you got that again, and then it's going to forward one more time. And as soon as it's over that exact degree, it's almost like that's the orgasm. Boom, it's done.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to kind of give it at that sort of thing, because it's like the pre-orgasm is all the, it's not there yet. And it's like,
Okay.
you know, it's not done. But when it's done, it's done. It's like, it's, you know, it's like,
Okay.
or, you know, you poop,
Good.
it's done. It's done. It's left the butthole. It's done. You know, it's like, yeah, sorry for the terrible things, but you know, talk about Pluto. But yeah, as it's going back and forth, it's not totally done yet. You know, so it raked it again, you know, when it goes backward. But then it's not like the first one. The first one, I think, it's almost the worst, because you don't know how it's going to affect you. So that first forward pass, I think, is the suckiest one, because you're unknown, you don't know how it is, and it catches you by surprise. If it's a bad aspect, or if it's a challenging aspect, kind of catches you a little bit off. The retrograde hits a little bit better. It's like, you know, you got to go through it, and you're more armed. It's like, okay, I got to go outside. I'll put my raincoat on. It's raining. I just ran out and I was like, got pelted. Oh no, you run back in, you get your stuff on, you go back out, and it's raining and storming, but at least you're prepared. Okay. And then you get one more time, and then it's not raining and out anymore. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm done with this. So that last pass, third one going forward is almost more empowering, because now it's like you've kicked all the carnage out of the way. You've already faced whatever demon you had to face, which was the first one. It took you by surprise. That sucked. That you're like, oh no, and you didn't want to face it, or you didn't want to give it up, or whatever you had to torment. And then the second one was just about cleaning it up. All right, I got to get this mess out of here. And then the third one is just, oh, glad this is done. Holy crap, you know? And then you're past it. So that third one, once it's passed, it's done.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So just look and see when that final is, and you can look at the exact, you know, if it's 24 and 32 degrees, once it's 33 degrees, it's done. It's past that point. And then
Okay.
then the stink gets less and less as it gets further away. So,
Cool. Okay.
so yeah, and just a little bit, just to sum up about the fours, I was just going to kind of just point out that the power of things and the fours is, you know, what's upsetting is those squares and those oppositions, which are one of those fours. Boom, 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 boom. You get the conjunction, a square, the opposition, the other square. And then the three groups of four: cardinals, the fixed, the mutables. They're all those groups. Boom, boom, boom. You know, you just turn the dial. You know, so if you really get that in your head, cardinal, fixed, mutable, those things, you just see these squares and these oppositions that come up, which are really challenging. They're the difficult things in life. But if we just face it, we look at it, we deal with it, we move on. Doesn't mean that we can't look at trines and nice parts and all that, but that seems the stuff that just happens, and you're just there, you know, with all that. But it's like the shit that comes up that stinks is what you got to deal with. It's like, if it smells nice, you just go, oh, I love that, and that's nice to be in that, you know. But if, you know, it's like I've got these gardenias sitting here, you know, and nice, and I smell them a little bit, you know, they're a couple days and they're turning a little bit, but I smell them, and I don't really notice it. But if I had a pile of crap here, I mean, it would be like on my mind, got to deal with it. You know, it's like it would take over. So it's like, this is what's kind of weird about good aspects and bad aspects. It's not like we ignore good aspects. It's just that the bad ones are louder. And it's like, we want to work at maybe getting them balanced faster because they're just, they need to be dealt with. It's just like, you know, we got a pile of crap here. I got to deal with it. I'm not going to smell it. So that's what seems to be the harder challenges of these of squares and oppositions. Once we realize that there's a pile of shit on your desk, then it's okay with figuring out how to deal with it. So the first hit is the pile of shit. The second one is dealing with it. And the third one is then making sure that there is nothing that fell on the floor or tainting anything else. And then you're moving past it. So the power of fours, because it's those angles that are difficult, and it's those corners, it's those rough edges that we have to always deal with. And then the oppositions, you know, looking and projecting things outward to see it on ourselves. You know, we kind of have to somewhat project out, or have to create a relationship, or have to create the conversation to be able to work out the self. That's the beauty of an opposition. I think oppositions are a little bit easier because of that. The squares seem to just be rough. So a square is just a rough thing, and you just have to embrace it. Maybe be the solid part, the structure, the parameters, the rules, and working within yourself. You know, don't succumb by all the rules, but challenge some as well. I mean, we have to have a healthy balance. Like, don't follow every rule, because, you know, rules are meant to be broken. And we also need structure at the same time, and we need rules. But if they get outdated or wrong, they need to be challenged and changed. So that's the power of the fours, and looking at those in relationship to just all of astrology. So I hope that this, get back over here, stop my share. I hope that this little go through again of Pluto and Pluto's energies, and how you can work with it and how you can use it, not to be afraid of it, but to use it powerfully. You know, we gotta love from our hearts, and then love powerfully, and use our power, you know, to love. And, you know, that's what heals and works everything. But it doesn't mean that you can't use that power to get stuff done, and have that good tenacity to keep on to stuff. So if you have shit happens up there, right? So if y'all have any more questions, just let me know. Otherwise, we'll put this one on a wrap, and we'll see everybody at the next astrology study group. All right, and I think I want to do something on the gardening with the moon. All right, have a good week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.